I'm all churched out, hurt and abused. I can't face what's left to do. Truth is I'm weak, no strength to fight, no tears to cry. Even if I try, but still my soul refuses to die. One touch will change my life. Take me to the King. I don't have much to bring. My heart's torn in pieces. It's my offering. Lay me at the throne. Lead me there alone. To gaze upon your glory and sing.
All right, good afternoon, and thank you, Carla and our PAN, for being part of this conversation we call Faith Matters. And we're really glad you were able to take the time to be with us. And this is going to be a bit of an interreligious ecumenical version of Faith Matters, because we have Catholic, Christianity, and Hindu represented in terms of faith today. So again, thank you both. Can you start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what life is like on campus for you here now?
Sure. So I'm RP Kacadia. I'm from Pembroke, New Hampshire. I'm a junior biology major and exercise science minor, and I'm on the men's lacrosse team. Faith-wise, I'm an active member of the Hindu community, and that's kind of been the forefront of my life here on campus and at home, so it follows me around everywhere.
Excellent, thank you.
I'm Carla Fora. I'm a junior. I'm majoring in neuroscience. I'm from Connecticut, West Haven, Connecticut, and I grew up as a Roman Catholic, so I always grew up on that faith. And then,
Yeah. So you're both here because I know you, and I know that your faith is important to you, and that's the purpose of these conversations, is to kind of highlight and have conversations with students who are leaders on our campus, but also appreciate the role of faith in their life. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about what your faith is like and how it lives with you on this campus or in your life right now.
I can definitely say for me, as a Hindu, faith has been something that's been with me since birth. Obviously, so my parents are from India, and India is a country where it's very diverse. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of cultures, a lot of people, and Hinduism is one of the forefronts of the country. So when they immigrated here, that followed them here, and when I was born here, it was with me since birth. A lot of different ways of life can be seen in that religion, and it pretty much just dictates how I live my everyday life, even before coming here. Some examples are being a vegetarian. The act of not eating meat is one of the pillars of Hinduism because it's seen as a form of nonviolence, which is something that's huge to being a Hindu. So that's some of the basics for me.
Yeah.
yeah, I grew up Roman Catholic. My parents are both immigrants, but my dad wasn't very that big in going to church, but my mom was very big on going to church, so we'd always go every Sunday. I grew up, I got confirmed, I got baptized, and I always my grandparents were very religious, so whenever we go over my grandparents, they always, if we'd have nightmares or anything scary, they'd always tell us to pray, anything like that, or if you lose something, always throw it to prayer, always asking God to help you out.
Yeah. There's a saint for every purpose, yeah. So, Carly, you mentioned when your parents immigrated. What's your ethnicity?
Oh, I'm Peruvian. My mom's Peruvian, and my dad is Cuban. So, my dad didn't, because in Cuba, they don't really have a religion. You're not really allowed to have churches. So they didn't really grow up going to church, or like if it was always like having a Virgin Mary at your home, and like having offerings, like you put like food in front of her. That was just kind of like
Statue of Mary, yeah.
Yeah. I grew up with a statue of Virgin Mary, like in my house too. My dad always kind of kept that tradition, even though he never went to church. To him, he always felt like church was at home.
Yeah, it's kind of a theme that we've talked about over the last few weeks about an institution or religion, and yet individual practices, whether people are part of the community or not. That's kind of what I'm picking up some of that your dad kept some of those practices, even though he wasn't part of the community.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of times we think about, we were talking about this earlier, kids growing up Catholic or Christian kind of get rebellious and, you know, they want to leave. Do you find that in Hinduism too? Is there like, do people rebel against the religion and say, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to have a hamburger? Or do they pretty much stay straight with the community the whole time?
Honestly, it really depends. I think it depends how you're brought up, how strict your parents are. One of the stereotypes are that Indian parents are very strict, so that's kind of one of the things that can kind of feed into the rebellion. But there's another time, like, in my case, you just feel a pure joy with being around your faith, that you just want to do whatever you can to please God. I can say, though, there are, other factors, such as being around different types of people. As myself, I was the only Hindu kid growing up in my town in New Hampshire. So, a lot of people could say maybe the cards weren't in my favor. I could have been around, the wrong crowd, and they could have got me away from God. But just because of my joy towards it, I was able to stay on my path that way. And it's not the same for everyone. It's always different, whatever situation you're in. And just because of how diverse and broad Hinduism is, and, what specifications are within each denomination, it always depends on the person's situation. So for me, I can't really judge someone and tell them that, these group of people are going to rebel, because I don't know what situation they're in. So, but it happens. It's no one's immune to it, but other people handle it a lot differently than some.
Are there many Hindus on our campus?
I'm not too sure. I know I'm friends with one student in the nursing program. He's Hindu, and I think there may be a couple others, but I don't know. Not more than 5. I can't really name.
Well, the reason I ask is that I've often said that I would have a very hard time being a Christian all by myself. I need the community to help support me and guide me and sometimes correct me. So what's it like to be, and you've had this experience where there's not a lot of Hindus around and you're still finding joy in your faith? How do you do that?
I think it's for previous interactions that I've had. So my Hindu temple that I go to in Lowell, I've really established a lot of really close friends there, and we've stayed really close knit. A lot of them have gone off to different schools across the country, but we still stay close together. And one of the really cool things about being in the Hindu community, especially in the United States, is that every year, the denomination I follow, we have like summer camps where we all get together, and it's with all the different centers across North America. So I've met kids just my age, from LA, from Miami, from Toronto, from all along the Northeast, everywhere. And that's how I've managed to make a lot of these connections. And we always have, a running group chat going. Something simple as that, where we all get together over Zoom, especially nowadays. And we're with one of the Swamis, and he's always just given, a quick little lecture, just wants to check in on how we're doing. And a lot of us guys are really close friends. So it's something where, even though I'm the only one on the campus, or one of the few on the campus that are, actively follow the Hindu religion, I'm still not alone in this. There's a lot of other people I can reach out to that I've made friends along the way. So
you feel the connection with people, even if they're not like in close proximity,
Exactly.
but still they're part of your world.
Exactly. Yep.
Great. And Carla, we talked about this where there is a lot of within Christianity, people, are raised in it, but then rebel against it or don't find meaning in it. But you have all the way through your time at Regis here. So what has kept you active in your religion?
Actually, similar to our parent, like when I was taking like my SALT classes or like my Catholic classes before I got confirmed, like they make you do a kind of like a Catholic convention or whatever, and it's like kids from like other churches and stuff like that. Like we spend like, it's like a whole day, like a retreat, like a whole day retreat. So I used to go on those, and it was kind of like, when I would first go to church, it just felt like I was going, like, because my mom would make me, like, on Sundays, like, when I was a kid. And then I would go on the retreat, and it was kind of like, I got to actually talk to kids, like, my age, and, like, we would talk about our faith and, like, what it meant to us, because, like, we'd have, like, these little, like, stations, like, just doing that stuff. And it was kind of, like, nice to hear it from someone, like, my age, instead of, like, always hearing it from, like, an adult. It just kind of felt, like, easier to connect to.
So it sounds like there's been enough there to keep you interested and engaged and moving in a certain direction with your faith.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, we were also saying that in the Christian tradition, we've begun the season of Lent, and it's a season of introspection and repentance and really reflecting on our relationship with God as we know God, our relationship with other people, who I am as a person, and trying to do things to move that in a more positive direction. Is that something that's part of your religious experience as well, those main themes of trying to move in a certain direction and being very introspective about who you are as a person in your relationships?
Yeah, exactly. I think I was mentioning before, there's a similar sort of situation in Hinduism, especially in the denomination I follow, which is Swaminarayan Hinduism. It's called Chaturmas. That's the word for it. I believe it starts around July and then goes all the way to November, if I'm not wrong. And it's the same sort of premise. You know, you can give up these sort of worldly pleasures, and you can also do things to add on more to your spiritual knowledge. Some examples that I've partaken in are, you know, doing more daily reading in like with Hindu texts, those sort of things. So that's something like, you know, those small things and those interlapping, you know, themes that I've seen between not just Hinduism and Christianity, but just all sorts of different faiths that I've found have been really, really interesting to see. So that's kind of one of the examples that I've had.
Yeah. Carla, do you think that also in your religious experience or your faith tradition, which we share, that the idea of moving someplace and not being kind of stagnant, or, you know, not having the same image of God as that you did when you were 5 years old, but that it's kind of growing and dynamic and moving someplace in a more authentic relationship. Is that something that is part of your experience as well?
Yeah, I would definitely say so, because, you know, when I was little, I just, you know, Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit, the Holy Trinity, that's always how I thought of it. And, like, I never really was, I guess, connected to that idea. I was just always confused by it. But then as I got older and, like, learned more, like, going to those classes and, like, you know, pulling the verses and, like, talking about what the stories, like, actually meant, it was kind of easier to, like, relate that to real life. And, like, I always felt like when I would be learning something, I would always be able to relate it to, like, a situation going on, or it just always felt like it kind of connected and kind of felt like, oh, I was meant to hear this. So I feel like that kind of also, like, built my strength with my religion with that.
Moving in a way that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be, you know, that would be a question I would have for both of you. If your faith matters, how for example, does it matter at Regis College? Like, where you are in life right now? Is your faith something that is part of your daily life? Is it something that helps you to move forward during difficult times? And, you know, if so, how? Like, why does it matter to you?
Well, I've mentioned before that, you know, one of the pillars is being vegetarian, and that's something that's followed me throughout my entire life, especially coming here. But I think the biggest thing, too, with having my faith with me is to show that even though I'm not at home anymore, not with, you know, a familiar surrounding, that I'm still with someone, and that someone is with God. And that's helped me, you know, get through a lot of difficult times, not just in school, but any difficult situation I may have been in. And at the same time, it's been one of the biggest motivational factors that I can think of out there in my journey through school and through life. Because, you know, we're always taught that God has a reason for everything that happens, and the power of prayer is something that's huge as well. So just those sort of small things have helped me live my life, you know, in any new way, shape, or form, anywhere I go, away from home, away from anything I'm familiar with. So the motivational factor, plus just knowing that I'm not alone, has kind of been the two sole things that I've been living by.
Do you have a daily prayer practice, or is it daily, is it weekly, how does prayer work into your life?
So prayer is also huge as well. So it's a daily prayer. It's the terminology is called the puja, and it's a prayer that you do. You just do it by yourself. It's first thing in the morning. So I believe the texts say that you're supposed to do it before the sunrise. But, you know, there's some leniency, of course. And it's where you sit and you meditate, and you have a little prayer rug similar to Islam, and instead you have pictures of different deities around you, and you have a rosary called a mala. That's what the terminology is, and you turn each bead, and you sit and meditate, and that's where pretty much that first thing in the day that allows God into your home or into your presence, where you can connect with God. And that's kind of like your start to the day almost. So that's something that's been consistent with me as long as I can remember.
Yeah. It almost sounds like, too, you know, we think about God is all powerful, but we can render God powerless unless we open up our hearts and our lives and our minds to let God into our lives, right? Carla, do you have prayer practices or rituals or things that you do to make yourself more open to the presence of God?
I would say so. I have the tendency to just always end up like praying. Like I just like casually and like even in my head like just send a prayer, just like kind of talking to God. Like if I'm like stressed or like worried about something, I just always find myself like saying a little prayer, like just a conversation, just like, and it kind of helps me like reflect like why I'm feeling that way, like kind of like making me want to like strengthen my relationship with God and like figure out like how to get through like that situation.
Like an ongoing openness to God's presence, where you can have that ongoing conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe lastly, I feel like I would ask both of you a million questions, but could you both speak about a little bit about your image, your primary image of the divine, of God, of who God is for you? I remember doing a linked course with FYS on world religions, and you know we did a very broad examination of Hinduism, and if I remember correctly, there are many, many, many manifestations of God, of the ultimate God. And people can kind of gravitate towards and embrace an image that really speaks to them. Is that sort of right?
Yeah, it's like I mentioned, like with the diversity of Hinduism across India, many see multiple gods. Myself personally, the Swaminarayan denomination, we see just one. We acknowledge the other forms,
Yeah.
but none are the supreme Lord. There's only one, and the term we have is Swaminarayan Bhagwan. That's the name. And then with my envisioning with Swaminarayan Bhagwan, how I see God is that God is flawless, no flaws, nothing, and that's how we should aspire to be. Of course, you know, we're humans and we have flaws, but whatever we can do to be as flawless as we can and please God is the most important thing. We view God as someone who is free of flaws, and that's how we should look in order to please God.
Yeah. Carla, how about you? What is there an image of the divine that keeps you motivated and strive to be close to?
Yeah, I feel like I always think back to the stories of when like Jesus would help like the homeless, or even though like he at that time like he was having like a big following, and I want to say I forgot what they're called, the Blazers, the Lentiles. I don't know. I was learning about it in religion class, and and Jesus would, even though like that group of people were usually like outcasted by like his followers, he still like went out of his way to like like cure them of illness. And it was just kind of like that idea of being able to like get over like larger like thoughts or like boundaries, I guess, like
Yeah.
and like overcome them, and like continuously does that like up until his death and even after.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, we say in the Catholic, in the Christian tradition that if Jesus is the manifestation of God, that he demonstrates that there's a special piece of God's heart that goes to the most outcast, the most lonely, the most vulnerable, because that's where he spent his time. Ministering to, helping, loving, offering support to the most forgotten, the most, and that's an interesting insight about who God is for us. God is the one who goes to those people and has a special support and affirmation and strength for them as well. And at the same time, God is flawless. God is perfection. God is, the ultimate reality of everything that is good and that we desire. So, interesting. Yeah. I feel like there's so much we have in common. A lot of times in our society, in our world, we look at differences and we build walls between us because of differences, but I think there's just so much. Seems to me, we're all looking for the same thing, ultimately, a connection with ultimate reality and a peaceful community of support that can help us on that journey. So thank you. I feel like we could go on and on and on, but let me ask you, because what we typically do too is to say, is there anything that we want to pray for? And there's no special formula. It's just anything that you feel like you want to pray for now, or anyone you want to pray for now as well. Please feel free.
Well, I'd like to pray for our sort of sense of normalcy to come back soon, and that all who have been affected by this terrible pandemic see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that no one has to go through anything alone, that there's always going to be someone with them, and that someone will be God forever and with them wherever they go and anytime they need them.
I would also want to send a prayer with this pandemic happening. I know there's been like a really big like mental health crisis going on because of that, because people haven't been able to like see people as much as they have been used to, and like this has just been a new situation for a lot of people. So I pray that like that they're able to get through like the difficult times in their life right now, even though it feels like a lot and it feels like really big to them right now, but that it's only like momentary.
Yeah, and I would like to add onto your prayers too that I just know that there are a lot of students that I know and people outside of school that are really struggling in the ways that you've talked about, but a lot of times they're struggling because I think from what I've heard, they feel alone. They feel like they don't have the support, people to understand them, people to help them get through the difficult times. I think they're searching for something like God, but it seems to be elusive to them. So I want to pray that they can find a sense of God, whoever and however God is for them, that will offer them strength and love and support and a sense of hope to get them through the most difficult times. So all of this we offer up to our loving God, a God who is bigger than all of us, a God who is in charge, a God who offers hope and support and perfection and joy and peace in ways that we can't even imagine. We offer all of this up to our God. Amen. Well, thank you. I really enjoyed this, and thank you both for making time out of your day to be with us and to have this conversation. And I hope we can do it again sometime.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
To the King, true.